Earth is often referred to as the blue planet. That's because Earth has an insane amount of water on it, covering 70% of its surface. But while most of us live far away from the ocean, that doesn't mean we don't depend on it. So what if it just stopped raining? What if one day you woke up and learned there would never be another raindrop anywhere on the planet again? But that all the water stored on Earth at this moment will still exist. That means rivers won't evaporate overnight and oceans won't turn to desert. But once you get past the initial shock, it becomes clear that this world is in some serious trouble. Would humans find a way to survive, or would the entire planet suffer without rain? All that failed plant life means there's no more cellulose to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which leads to runaway global warming. Humidity levels are at historic lows. Weather patterns have begun to shift dramatically. Hunger strikes in regions dependent on imported food. Countries with agricultural surpluses start rationing exports. Then even worse things happen. Droughts, once limited to individual countries, spread across the globe. Regional conflicts erupt over dwindling water supplies. Some countries are able to hold out thanks to massive underground aquifers. But even those can't last forever. That sudden loss of moisture has led to strong winds in some places and unseasonable cold in others. Without regular rainfall to green them up, large swaths of land look like the Sahara Desert. Major cities that depend on surface water are completely out of luck. New York, Los Angeles, Cape Town, Singapore, every city that relies on lakes, rivers, or reservoirs is now completely dry. People must flee these urban centers, joining mass migrations from all over the world. Wildfires rage across the countryside. Even if they could, people wouldn't put out the fires because there isn't any water left. Planes are deployed to deliberately crash into clouds, attempting to force them to rain. Large-scale desalination plants are built along coastlines, though their effects are negligible compared to the vast oceans they're pulling from. Now living in space colonies orbiting the dying planet, they look down on a world turned to dust. Crops genetically engineered to survive in dry, hot climates are deployed to try to fix the atmosphere and reseed the planet. But it takes centuries for anything to grow back. Massive artificial water recycling systems are also built, collecting and purifying domestic wastewater to meet basic human needs. But it's simply too little too late. Satellites are positioned over dried-up riverbeds to reflect more sunlight onto them, hoping to increase temperatures and generate rain. Or check out why the South Pole isn't covered in ice. Ground-based lasers are pointed upwards to vaporize water molecules in the lower atmosphere, creating clouds and hopefully precipitation. Whether or not it ever rains again is anyone's guess. But if it does, you can bet it'll feel a whole lot sweeter than it ever did before. Borders are thrown open as refugees pour in from neighboring nations. Some governments try to capitalize on the crisis, charging exorbitant fees for access to clean water. Others welcome those fleeing the drought, setting up refugee camps and distributing aid. Still, it's not enough. Worst of all, crops are withering away. Farmers aren't stupid. Regional wars quickly spin out of control, causing millions of deaths. In some parts of the world, the temperature climbs to dangerous levels, forcing survivors underground or to the poles, which are cooler but no less barren. Whole nations vanish as rising sea levels flood coastal cities. They know the writing is on the wall and they race to harvest whatever they can before it gets too late. But we'll get back to that later. For now, let's go back to the beginning of our rainless timeline. Of course, the exact amount varies greatly depending on where you are. Snow blankets the ground wherever it snows, which is pretty much everywhere. Most forms of plant life vanish, meaning there's nothing to hold the topsoil in place. Dust storms ravage the landscape, kicking up so much dirt that sunlight can't reach the surface. Areas closer to the equator receive much more rain than those farther away. And some places don't see a drop for months at a time. But in general, we can safely assume that if it stopped raining today, most areas would have enough water to last a few weeks or maybe a few months before reserves started to dwindle. The lack of rain means there's almost no moisture left in the air. Clouds vanish from the sky and humidity drops to zero. Temperatures plummet in some areas, leading to early frosts that kill off even more crops. Rivers begin to shrink, leaving behind cracked, dusty beds. Wetlands vanish entirely. To answer this question, we're going to have to do a lot of hypotheticals. So let's get to it. 3 months have passed since it rained for the last time. By now, nearly all surface water has evaporated, drained, or otherwise disappeared. Any body of standing water left over has become a salty, toxic wasteland. Lakes are reduced to small ponds, some barely holding enough water for a single person to survive. In fact, every single bit of water on Earth is constantly moving through a continuous cycle driven by the sun. As the water recedes, so do the fish. Mass die-offs of freshwater species take place as they struggle to adapt to the changing conditions. Salmon and trout die in massive numbers. Other fish migrate upstream to find deeper pools of water, only to die of starvation when the water evaporates. That includes the water you drink, the food you eat, and even the clouds floating overhead. One key part of this cycle is rain. While rain might seem like a nuisance when it pours during your lunch break, it's vital for life on Earth. In this video, we're going to assume that it's not just the lack of future rains we have to worry about. Rain typically falls between 20 to 60 inches per year in most parts of the planet. The first thing you'd notice in this new world is the soil. Almost everywhere would be bone dry within days. Since crops rely on water to grow, farmers would immediately know something was wrong. At first, they could keep their crops alive by tapping into underground water reserves. But eventually, these would dry up as well. The result would be devastating. 1/3 of the world's crops would fail right away. Another 2/3 would soon follow. But wait, there's more bad news. It's been a week since the last raindrop fell. Water reservoirs around the world are at their lowest point ever recorded. The immediate result is a dramatic spike in food prices. Meanwhile, the atmosphere has changed dramatically. It's hard to believe, but things are about to get a whole lot worse. Rivers have shrunk to mere trickles, struggling to make their way to the sea. Many have stopped flowing altogether. On land, conditions are no better. Forests are drying out. Trees drop their leaves and become brittle. And speaking of people, they're having a rough time. This leads to unprecedented population shifts. Countries with water resources, such as Iceland and Canada, suddenly become highly sought after. With the supply of fresh water shrinking every day, conflict erupts over dwindling resources. By this point, the climate has changed drastically. With no rain to replenish the atmosphere, the world is a much colder place. It's gotten so bad that geoengineering projects are attempted to restore precipitation. Of course, these efforts are doomed to fail. And the truth is that humans could never have solved this problem anyway. By this point, the only people left alive are those who made the decision to leave Earth behind. Maybe humanity can rebuild its home planet, but it'll take thousands of years and a whole lot of rain.